We are live. Hey, everyone. Oh, we already have someone here. Hey, and welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls, using technology to reimagine education. My name is I am the host of this show. I created this show because I think our society has changed a lot. Social media and technology play a huge role in our changing society. As educators, this digital transformation and change how we teach and interact with our students. On this show, I interview leading professors and professionals like Dr. Chetachi Akwa regarding topics related to social media, technology, education, learning, change, and disruptions. So I am so honored that Dr. Chetachi is with us today. And if you are new to the show, thank you very much for checking us out. If you are a returning attendee, you know how much I love you. And if you are watching this on replay, future people, thank you very much for checking us out. And hey, Darren, hey, Elaine, thank you so much for being here. And as I mentioned, I'm so honored that Dr. Chetachi is with us today. And she is an adjunct associate professor at the University of Maryland, University College in the United States. She has been teaching since 2002. And besides being an educator, Chetachi is also a business co-owner of Conscious Thoughts Media. And she also wears so many other hats. She's a filmmaker, writer, a journalist, an artist, and a host of her own live streaming Media Scope, which is right after our interview today. Definitely check it out if you can. And Dr. Chetachi, thank you so much for being with us here today. It is truly our honor. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm honored that you even asked me. So thank you.
Do you want to add anything to my introduction here?
That would be an all-day affair if I added anything else. Just probably that the fact that I also do a podcast called TV Channeling, which looks at television, film, and entertainment. So I do that with a friend who lives out in LA.
Oh, wow. You are really all over the place. Yeah. And thank you, everyone, for being here. Elaine, Darren, and Des, and everyone, thank you so much. You guys rock. So make sure that you give us a share or a like, and tell us where you are from joining this show. And please feel free to ask any questions. And because Chetachi has her own show right after our show, so we'll try to finish a little bit earlier than normal so that she can get prepared. So tell us about your social media journey, Chetachi. How did you get started, and why and when?
Interesting. You know, I've always loved media in general, and my mother used to call me TV addict because I really was a TV addict. I couldn't live without television. And so, excuse me, ever since I was small, I was always engaging in media because I absolutely loved media and felt it was essential. So it was inevitable that somehow I was going to be involved in media, whether it's teaching, making, or whatever. And so in terms of social media, I actually, for quite some time, have been using social media, obviously starting with like things like Black Planet, AOL, remember when they had the instant messenger and stuff? So I used the chat rooms on AOL quite a bit. I even used news groups and things like back in the early days of the internet. Then, once we started to get quote unquote modern, I was on MySpace, which quickly got out of control. And then I've been on Facebook ever since they started in 2004, back when you had to have an EDU account. So I've been, since the inception for a good now, probably 15 years using social media.
Oh, wow. You are such an early adopter.
Yes, and I was bored, so I'm like, all right, let me find something to do.
And make some money out of this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, hey, Alberto, thank you for being here. And you are definitely such an early adopter. And I'm so impressed by how many responsibilities, how many roles you are playing. You are, as I mentioned earlier, you are a writer, a journalist, a business owner, a filmmaker, and an educator, a live streaming show host, so much. So can you please share with us the top 3 ways that social media has transformed your career? And what are some best practices that we could apply to our own careers?
That's an excellent question. So top 3 ways that social media has transformed. I would say number one, 2, and 3. The fact that I've been able to connect with so many people. In the quote unquote real world, of course I have connections, but I have made so many more. I don't want to say they're different. So the connections that I've made in real life are great, or in the real world are great. But online and on social media, I have the most supportive community. I think we really tend to support each other. Those of us that are live streamers, those of us that are on other platforms, social media wise, I think we tend to be really supportive of each other. So I think the big benefit to my career is that I've met people that have been able to push me forward in this whole new venture. So for example, this show that I do afterwards, I have a producer. He lives in Dallas. I've never met him in real life. We only know each other basically through social media. And now, of course, we're friends and we work together. The podcast that I do, never met him in real life, but he's my co-host and I'm his co-host. The show that I do on Sundays, the Classic Movie Salon, we're at the 4 corners of the world, in the UK, in New York, and I'm here in the Miami area, and the other person is in LA, Joe Wilson, as you know. I met actually Colleen in real life, but that's after we had started doing the show. So I would say that a big benefit was the fact that I've been able to meet these people that have taken my social media itself and social media career to the next level. Because rather than saying taking, everybody has been like, how can we help you? And I'm like, well, damn, I don't know, because most people want to take. So thank you for asking.
Wow, that is amazing. That is truly amazing. Now, as I think about it, so many of my friends that I'm working with right now that I have never ever met in person, it is really this virtual collection, collaboration. That's amazing. Yeah. Any other benefits or ways that transformed your career you want to share? The top 1, 2, 3? Yes.
So obviously I met you, and we have not met in real life, although we have a mutual colleague, which is interesting. I think it also has allowed me to see, and we already know this, but it has allowed me to see how small the world actually is and how possible it is to work with other people that are not necessarily in your locale. And I think it's important for us to realize that the world is not just the world down the street from you in your same state, even in your same country, that social media actually has made the world much smaller, and it's much more possible to know someone on a level where you can actually work with them. So I think that's another benefit, that I'm like, okay, this is actually possible. It's actually possible to do this. And I think also another top thing is that and I don't know if this is directly an effect from it, but the fact that now, because I use social media avidly and I teach social media, I am not just teaching from the theoretical perspective. The theory is extremely important, but let's be real. Students don't give two damns about the theory behind it. They want to know, how can I become a social media strategist? How can I become a reporter or an anchor? How can I get involved in Hollywood? They don't care about the theory end of it. It's nice to know, but they're looking for practical ways to employ the knowledge we're giving them. So if we're not doing this practically, as instructors, as professors, how are we expecting them to believe in what we say and for us to have the knowledge to transmit to them if it's third hand? That doesn't make any sense. So I think that's another benefit, that engaging in it has allowed my teaching to be that much better because I'm solid in what I say and I know what I say is true, you know?
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then you asked about best practices. Do you want me to answer that? I can if you want.
You mentioned. Yes. But I just love everything you mentioned. So spot on and so just amazing, and walk the talk. You know, even in in the business teaching world, there are so many people who teach businesses, but they never run a business in their entire life. And in education, we face the same problem. So I just love what you mentioned. Yeah, and please share some best practices.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Darren made the point of, there's so many people teaching from books, and students lose respect if you are 2 pages ahead of them in the book. Exactly. And then you said people teach business that they've never run a business. Who does that? Who does that? And I really get on professors and instructors who think that they could just sit in the ivory tower and not engage in what it is they're teaching. Nobody in their right mind does that. It's only in academe that we have the gall and the audacity to think we don't have to practice what we preach. What? And we're okay with it. Now it's starting to change a little bit, but by and large, universities are still very traditional. So I'm right. I think we're right here when it comes to that. So some best practices. Number one, you don't have to use everything. I think when it comes to, let's talk about academe. We could talk about all fields because this works for all fields. But, in academe, I think part of the thing is that people are afraid of what they don't know. Professors, especially if you've been sitting on your duckus and not engaging in social media, you get scared and you don't know where to start. Start with what you know. Start with one platform. You don't have to do everything. And guess what? Your audience is not everywhere necessarily. So start with one platform and then go from there. Number two, and I apologize, of course, now that I'm doing an interview, some truck wants to be outside.
We are live.
We're live. That's what happens. And I'm like, it's 5:00. Who's working now? So I apologize. Wow. So number two, I think that once you decide what it is you want to do, you need to watch. Talking about live streaming, for example, it's great and it's a great platform to be on, but sometimes you need to just watch and see where there are gaps in the space that you can fill in. So you can say, where are there knowledge gaps that I can fill in? So I need to watch and see who's doing what. And when I see where there's a dearth of information, I can fill in that way. So I think another best practice is to watch before you jump head in, especially if you haven't done it before. Just watch and see what other people are doing in the space. See, where is there a gap that I can fill in? And this is where I can fill in. And then watching also gives you some best practices of your own. I like what this person is doing. I don't necessarily like what this person is doing, so I'm not going to do it. So I think watching as well. So practicing what you preach and then watching before you go.
Wow, I love those really amazing tips, especially the first one can definitely be applied to academia. I know this so well. Yes, we have a question from Julia, and thank you for being here, Julia, Tina, Shwal, those of you who joined a little bit late. And So Julia is curious to see. Can you read the question, Chetachi?
Yeah.
Yeah. How you market? Yes, yes.
Wow. Okay. So Julia, thank you so much for the question. I've been actually doing the t-shirts. I have a t-shirt line called Akwa, and it's a hand painted t-shirt line. So I hand paint every single one. Yeah. And so I'm actually now getting into doing some screen print stuff as well. But, you know, the majority are hand painted, and I have some available and then some to order, you know, special. And so what I did is I went after the ones, obviously, that were going to showcase what I do the best. And those are the ones that are pictorial, right? So Facebook, yeah, obviously, but sometimes Facebook is like, meh. You know, when you look at Facebook, sometimes it's so insular and you can reach other people, but often with Facebook, you're starting with the people you know, right? You're asking people you know to like your page. And then you can do things like boost the post. You could also do things like buy ads from Facebook, and that will push your post up. But for the most part, you're starting with people you know. So I did that. But Instagram was immensely helpful in terms of pushing the image and pushing the brand, because people could see what I was doing. You know, very little text, enough text, but then the story was in the photograph. And so that's why, you know, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, definitely. But I'm there because I like Twitter. It's not that most of the traffic for the t-shirt line comes from Twitter. It's primarily Instagram and Facebook, but Twitter is great. So that's how I've been able to use social media to push the brand forward. And then I do things like, okay, interesting. I deemed July t-shirt month. There's no such thing as t-shirt month, but I made one up. And every July for 7 years, I've been saying, hey guys, it's t-shirt month. And so what I'll do is I'll feature a cool fact about t-shirts, like the Guinness World Record for the person who wore the most t-shirts, or the record for the largest t-shirt. And then of course, alongside that, I'm like, you know, July is really hot, perfect for t-shirt weather. Here is our such and such t-shirt, and put that alongside. So that's how I've been able to use that. Hopefully, Julia, that answers your question.
Yeah, she said it's amazing, and you got so much love from our audience. And so Julia said that she loved your answer, and how you sold your t-shirt through Instagram, and definitely makes sense. And Darren made a comments regarding like something you mentioned earlier, friends and family. Yes, my people, like my friends, don't understand what I'm doing on social media. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's true in all aspects. So it's like, hey, like my page. And they're like, yeah, okay. And they may like it, and then they never visit again. So sometimes you can't rely on them. So I'm like, look, I'll have to get with you people later. So you need to focus on those people who are actually going to be engaged. And sometimes it's not your family and your friends. And think about this. People get so many requests for everything through social media. And so you just have to combat all of that. I think there's a little bit of fatigue sometimes. There's some social media fatigue because so many people are being asked to do so many things. So you have to be aware of that. What I do, and this, I'm not one that likes to hard sell. I've always been like, all right, you want to buy it, you buy it, you don't, you don't. Now, that's not necessarily the way everybody can work. But when you leave, for me, when I leave people to their own devices and I present the information, I've found that they're more likely to, on their own, gravitate towards it. It's like when you're in a store. You know how some people don't like to be bothered by salespeople? It's like, leave me alone, I'm looking. That's kind of the approach I take with social media and my t-shirt line. So, and social media in general. I say what I need to say when I have something to say. If it's important, then I do it. So I may post, depending on what platform it's on, I may post daily. For some, I may not. It depends on if I have something that's really worth it to say or really worth it to announce. And consistency is the key. So I am posting at least a couple of times a week, but I don't feel like I have to do it every day. Like some social media strategists say, oh, you have to do. I do when I feel like I need to do it, and it's working for me. So find what your pattern is and let that work for you. Just make sure it's somehow consistent.
Yes. Oh, I love this. It's really about quality, not always quantity. Look at how much like garbage and noise we already have media. I got lots of love from Curtis, from Des, and you are absolutely on fire today, Chetachi. And so thank you so much for everything you mentioned. And Elaine was also commenting what you mentioned earlier about just getting started, starting with only one platform. So I think this advice can be applied to every single person, regardless what industry you are in, just getting started. And as you mentioned earlier about this fatigue factor, so I was thinking maybe you can share with us some mistakes, if there's any, that you made in your like social media journey.
Oh yeah, everybody makes mistakes. That's a good question. I try to be very careful, and I would say this is not a mistake as much as a learning experience. What I found for me is that, like, I find it, I do on my personal Instagram, for example, I do media tech and pop culture. And so I will post articles and things that are interesting. And there are some people that will that like that. There are a lot of people that like that. But I found that I get more likes when I have a photo of me someplace explaining where I am, and it's something to do with media tech and pop culture, and I'm involved. And so for a time I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And I would see that and not pay attention. But then I said, oh, you know what? I'm seeing that I get like 200. I posted something recently and I had like 400 likes on it. I'm like, what the hell? Wow. So
Wow.
yeah, I saw that and I'm like, that's because I was involved somehow, which leads me to believe that my audience really likes when I'm somehow involved in it, when it's a photo of me or it's so they love the other information, but then they also like when I post things about me. So that leads me to be the lesson I learned in that is that my social media needs not just be business. It also needs to have that bit of personality because people connect with people. It's not just about the static information. They connect with people. So that I think that was a learning experience that I had.
Yes, yes, definitely. And I just want to show more comments from people. And Shval was commenting on what you mentioned earlier of walking the talk. So he said teachers like teaching based on personal experiences can teach so much better. Completely agree. Yes, and Elaine mentioned that Instagram now has the buy button, which is like super awesome. It's great for your t-shirt company.
Yes, yes. And we knew this was coming. We knew it was only a matter of time before e-commerce reached all these places. You know, you could already do things like buy movie ticket through Snapchat, Discover on certain Discover story. There were already these things that were happening. Certain functionalities in Facebook, like in Messenger, etc. So we knew this was coming. So it was only a matter of time before Snapchat, Instagram, because you knew they copied it before they came up with this buy button. So yeah, I think it's a great thing, and yeah, I'll see how it works for me.
Yeah, so like loved everything you mentioned so far, and Julia was also commenting on what you mentioned earlier regarding content marketing and waiting for your ideal client to approach, you know, and just being really careful.
Absolutely.
And here's another comment from Alberto. I'm trying to catch up. People give you guys are amazing. So many great comments. Thank you so much. And Chetachi, you are absolutely on fire. So thank you so much. So Alberto has a question here.
Okay.
How do you see the future of teaching and social media? What is going to change and what remains based on the actual educational system?
That's an excellent question. What we're starting to see already, and I'm sure you've seen this too, is that universities are starting to consider students more as customers than as students. And so there's this whole movement, and for the good and for the bad, because I've seen it work well and I've seen it not work so well. But they're starting, for all intents and purposes, they're viewing students as customers. And what's happening is they're going to the realms that the customers want and where the customers are. And what's happening is that students are using social media. Students are, so, okay, let's take, for example, and I'm in video and film production. We're needing to look in, rather than looking at the traditional Hollywood studio system, we're now needing to look at considering platforms like Netflix, platforms like Hulu, platforms like YouTube Red, platforms like Facebook Watch, okay, platforms like Periscope and all Facebook Lives. So we're needed to consider those in terms of production as well. And so you're also and then of course there's 360, etc. 360 video, VR, even AR, augmented reality. So you're needing to consider, I can no longer just teach the same linear television and linear film models that I have been teaching. I need to teach for the small screen, because guess what? This is how millennials and this is how Gen Z are watching things. They're not consuming things on the large screen. In fact, Sling just came to an agreement with, I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's like an amalgamation of like organizations to carry Sling more on mobile. So now who's going to have access to this? Millennials and Gen Z. They realize that this is the way that the industry is going. So if that's where they're going, that's where we need to be. Bringing this back full circle to universities, if this is where students are going, if this is where the industries which we're supposed to damn well be teaching are going, that's where we need to go as well. So in terms of social media, because it's so important now and in the future, it's not just now, this is also the future of interaction. So since it's going that way, I'm thinking, not even thinking, I know that faculty need to be more up on social media. Currently, we don't have we don't have, when we do our faculty development things, we only get them if we go to a conference on our own and pick up these social media tricks. Our universities are not doing professional development for faculty in terms of engaging with social media. Not every, I shouldn't say not all of us, but some are, most aren't. So I think that's what needs to happen, that our universities have to start to be more flexible with where the market is going and including these things. Even if you think it's malarkey and bullcocky, that's where the students are.
I just love everything you mentioned. And Julia mentioned that you are absolutely on fire. So, and I agree.
You.
I agree. I can see that even like for myself, I'm transitioning to become like a professor at the same time becoming a practitioner. Yes. To be more hands-on. Yes. I think we need more professors like this type of, not just in academia, but like grounded in both camps of the industry. People like Julia, and many of our guests here, not just educators, but also practitioners at the same time. And so that we can shrink the gap between teaching and practice.
Absolutely. Oh, you're welcome, Alberto. Thank you for asking. Wow.
Oh my God. I can't catch up with people's comments here. It's like so amazing. Yes. And I have another question. I'm just curious. And you do so many things and live streaming and Instagram and Facebook. I wonder if there's one platform that elevated your career the most. If there's like just that one, the most important or the most transformative social platform.
Yeah. Without a doubt, I'm going to say, well, Meerkat was first before its untimely demise. Rest in peace, Meerkat. We love you. Meerkat class of 2015. So Meerkat and Periscope, definitely. Then, of course, Facebook Live came later, but these live streaming platforms, and mind you, I had been doing Google Hangouts for quite some time, since like 2012, 2012, I think I've been doing them. I had actually been requiring my students to do Google Hangouts. So I would give them an assignment where they had to work in groups, and they were going to produce a Google show on Google Hangout. So that was the thing. And they had to find somebody prominent in the world of media and do the show, all 4 of them. And so I had been already assigning that in my teaching when, Google Hangout first really started to become a thing. So I had been doing it, but of course, and then doing some interviews on Google, but it was really, I think the show, my career as a personality, I am a personality now, took off because of Meerkat, Periscope, and Facebook Live, and Blab as well.
Yes.
Now defunct. And that's where we met. I met you on Blab. So
yes, and Snapchat later. Yes. Definitely. How many shows do you have? I think I lost track here.
Me too. So I do a Mediascope every Wednesday. I do it once on Busker, usually beforehand, which is kind of like the pre-show, and then Periscope and Facebook Live. And I don't know if Curtis is still here, but Curtis is my producer, and he was in here. And so we do that every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Then on Sundays, I do the Classic Movie Salon with the 3 other individuals, and we talk all about classic film. So because we're all film buffs or filmmakers, 2 of us are filmmakers, it's so much fun and it works. And we do that, classicmoviesalon.com. And then I have a podcast, like I was mentioning, TV channeling, that I do with my co-host out in LA, and we post weekly. So yeah, that's 3 shows. And then I'm frequently a guest on stuff like this, Dr. Vibe show once a month. I'm the media specialist, if you want to call me that. So I just love it. So whenever I have an opportunity, I take it.
You are amazing. I think this is a perfect timing to jump into one of my questions. And clearly you don't sleep. You are doing so much. So what are some of your top resources or tools or apps to stay productive or ahead of the game and being so amazing and so organized? And can you please share with us?
Yes, that's so if you're talking about so let's talk about human apps first, or human applications. I think many of us underestimate the power of having help, and we feel that we have to do everything ourselves, or we feel that nobody will help us. And I think that the power of social media is that you have people to help you. Case in point, that's how I met Curtis. And other people that will help out with things. So that human application that will help you with productivity when you can't. Thank God for Curtis, because I don't have to run graphics, and I don't have to run lower thirds and things like I would on my own if I was running it on my own. And to be honest, if I was running it on my own, sometimes I'd just be like, man, I don't feel like it today. So thank goodness for him. So think about the human apps that we have disposal. That are at our disposal as well. Make those connections. And so, yeah, absolutely. Collaboration is the future of business. Yes. So I think, okay, now on to other technical apps or mechanical apps that I use. I love Slack for productivity. I'm in probably too many Slack groups, but it works really well. I absolutely love Slack. In terms of social media, I do teach a social media class, and I'm starting to manage a couple of social media accounts. I don't do a whole lot of it, but I do some. And something that is invaluable for me for that is something like a Hootsuite. So you can schedule your tweets. Mind you, not every type, not tweets, but social media messages. Not every type of social media message works on every platform. So it doesn't always work just to take one message and mass produce it. Sometimes you have to tweak it. Sometimes you have to make it specific for the platform so that people are they just scheduled this. So you have to put in some work, but Hootsuite is immensely helpful for those types. So I like Slack and Hootsuite. What else? I'm trying to think. Google Calendar. Okay. The whole Google suite. I I was very anti putting my stuff out there in the cloud. I'm still not, like my films and things, you're not going to find me putting a whole bunch of stuff in the cloud. But I'm still very local drive when it comes to that. But I use Google Drive for everything, every presentation, in fact, I do put some projects in the cloud because I produce videos I do a lot of realtors, etc. So when I'm sharing my finished product with them, I put it in a folder in Google Drive and they pick it up. So I love the whole Google suite for productivity as well.
That's awesome. I love every single apps you mentioned. And here we got another really great question from Elaine. She asked if you think Google Plus should be taught.
Is that something should be taught along?
Because I rarely use Google Plus, to be honest with all of you.
Let's talk about Google for a minute. Poor Google. They're such a huge mainstay in terms of technology, but in terms of what and YouTube, they're that's Google. But in terms of what they did with Google Plus, let me tell you what Google Plus is. Google Plus is a problematic social platform that they never fully developed. And this is what I think happened with them. Same thing with Google Glass. They developed Google Plus. And remember at the beginning of Google Plus, you had to be invited by someone in order to use it. Well, they were trying to be exclusive, and they exclusived themselves right out of users. That was the problem. When they tried to be too high and mighty and too highfalutin, that's what you get. You end up losing people. Because I lost interest because I'm like, I have to be put on a waiting list and invite. Oh, forget you. There's other things. And if that's the way I was feeling, I'm sure there were other people that felt the same way. So I think that was problematic. And since then, it never really quite caught on. When you keep things so exclusive, and it's not like they had features of this, like this was open, and then they had certain features that were open to influencers. The entire thing was a closed system until they decided to open it to everyone. By this point, other platforms are taking precedence, and people forget about Google Plus. So yeah, poor Google, exactly. So I don't know. This does not mean, never say never. This does not mean that Google Plus could not somehow turn around, that they could not somehow pivot and find some other functionality that would work better for them. But I'm not thinking that Google Plus is something that is of critical importance to teach if we're talking about social platforms. It's good to acknowledge that it's a social platform. Beyond that, meh.
And Laura, why it is not so popular, why it is dying.
You said what?
And like Laura, why Google Plus is dying?
Yeah.
Yes, and I think Julia here basically made the same comment. She mentioned that she is a moderator of 600 Google Plus, and
wow.
Yeah, I think I can feel the same way about LinkedIn group. I am a member of several LinkedIn group, but I just feel like nothing is going on. It's not the same as Facebook group at all.
Well, and see, here's the problem. I think with LinkedIn is a very valuable tool, but I think people need to understand how to use LinkedIn properly. Too many people try to use LinkedIn like Facebook, and LinkedIn is not Facebook. And I think I've noticed this too, that the level of engagement in the groups in LinkedIn is not what it could be. Some of the groups or they started off really well and then it just kind of fizzled out. I think because of the nature of what LinkedIn is supposed to be, which is kind of business connectivity, those type of groups may not work as well. Those type of networking groups may not work as well. This is what I've found. So I think it comes with understanding what LinkedIn is. Understand what it is, and it is what it is. And trying to make it into something that it's not may not work for Microsoft. So
yes, great. Yeah. And here is it's another really great question from Shual. He asked, What is your advice, Chetachi, for growing like subscribers without being like spammy and without spamming them? So do you have any advice on this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think everybody is doing that. Everybody is really doing that. And I want to caution people against thinking that numbers is the end all and be all, because it's not. You, like you were saying, it's quality. And I think that, number one, producing quality content, which I think everybody is trying to do. You know, those of us that are here, we're all striving to provide not just quality, but interesting content, the type of content you would want to read. Yeah, numbers is not the end game at all. Absolutely. I think here's the thing. We run after numbers and chase numbers because that's what advertisers want, because they still use an antiquated system of revenue generation, which is ads, from the 1800s and the time of yellow journalism. They're still doing that. And because they have not changed their model, we still tend to adhere to that model. But then they want numbers. I mean, they will tell you, we want eyeballs, because they want, but eyeball, what good is it to have 1 million subscribers if 100 people engage with you? It doesn't make any sense. That's not a good return on investment. So I think, and to me, you could have 100 subscribers and like 75 of them are constantly active. That to me is a better, that's to me is better engagement than the million. So yeah, you have numbers, but maybe they just liked you just because, and they have not been sent. So in terms of, I want to caution you against thinking that the number of subscribers is the end all and be all. It's about the engagement. It's not just about the numbers. But let's be real. If you're in a world where you're trying to attract the eyes of advertisers, numbers are important for them. So we can't ignore that. So again, number one, good content, good engaging content. Number two, ask it. And I don't always like to do this, because you know me, I'm kind of like, okay, if you want to do it, do it. But asking people when you have, and don't do it all the time, but asking people to, hey, if you like what you saw here today, share. Okay, like you asked us, please feel free to share it out. Asking people to do that, you know, it's like bringing a friend to a party, one new person to think about, you know, MLMs like multi-level marketing. Those only work because people bring in other people and underneath them. They bring in a friend and that type of thing. So I'm not a huge fan of MLMs, but that's kind of a model in your head that you could think about, bringing a friend along and having them bring a friend along. And how do you do that? Again, it goes back to good, engaging content. Number three, and we've seen this, I would say, don't underestimate the power of your email list as well. So whenever you're doing something, whenever you have a live stream, whenever you're on social media, you should be trying to grow this email list, because guess what? Not everybody is a millennial or Gen Z that does not read email. There are still people who do that. So making sure that you have a solid email list and you're engaging them and not spamming them, and putting out things when it is timely and important and giving value. Okay, not just in your social media posts, but when you do these, either what MailChimps or Constant Contacts that you're doing, make sure whatever it is, they're getting something, because people are more likely to engage if they feel like they're getting something. Definitely.
Oh, so, I love this. I love this. Yeah, and Julia,
that's helpful.
Yeah, I definitely, and I think Julia was on my show a few weeks ago, and she talks a lot about like content marketing and good engaging content. And she's also the CEO of her own company, and she just recently released a course on content marketing. So yes, and she gave us a great example here of a lady who was selling a T-shirt or selling a program to 200 people, and half of them bought they. So that is a powerful example. Yes.
That's amazing. Julia's amazing too. I was like, why is she not on? But I forgot. I said, oh yeah, she was on your show before. She's amazing.
Yes. She was like, you are definitely on fire. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you.
And I think I saw a question earlier, and oh, is this hard to to keep up. But anyway, I will show the questions later. And so we are fastly approaching the end of our show here. So what do you think as an ending question, and what do you think are the most important questions that we need to ask ourselves, Chetachi, as educators or practitioners or business owners as we continue to march forward in today's digital age? As you mentioned earlier, social media is not going away anytime sooner. It is only going to come stronger to us. So what are some most important questions that we need to ask ourselves so that we can not be prepared, but stay prepared?
Mm-hmm. This is a good question. Number one, am I where I need to be in terms of knowledge of social platforms, in terms of being on these social platforms, in terms of understanding? If not, then I probably need to go and renew my knowledge and get some training. And there are so many places that you can get training on these things for not that much money or free. Okay, so use YouTube as a source, yes. Google as a source. There are also, in fact, edX, which is, if you all don't know, I'm sure you all know, but if you don't know, it is a platform where you can take courses for free, and they have paid ones, but for free, from top professors at universities around the country and in the world, not just around not this country, but in the world as well. Mm-hmm. And it's free. You just register. So you could take everything from Mandarin to social media manager. And I've taken classes before. So they have courses. edX is one thing. Also, Creative Live. If you don't know Creative Live, get to know Creative Live. CreativeLive.com. You can go and take, again, classes. If you take the class while it's live, it's free. If you want the replay, then you have to pay for it. But they replay it one time for free. So I love them because I'm a video maker and a filmmaker. They have a lot of photography and film classes, but they also have things like business classes. They also have crafting classes. They've also had social media management classes. So check out creativelive.com. So the big thing is knowing where you are, and if you're not where you need to be, getting some help and getting some training, realizing that also you don't have to be on everything. Be where your audience is, be where you need to be. Other things are just going to be a time suck if it doesn't help. Just to say I have a presence on Snapchat and you're not creating stories is not helpful for you. I have an account, but okay, well then it's not helpful. So even if you have an account and you peruse it, you don't necessarily need to make that your main strategy in terms of what you do business-wise. And then in terms of the academy and in terms of teaching it, you cannot get away from this. Professors, are you listening to me? Are you hearing what I'm saying? You can't get away from it. So don't be the dinosaur that poo-poos social media platforms, because I've seen too many people. To me, and you know what? And I'm not going to retract this. This means you need to retire. If you don't see the value of, then get the hell out and retire and sit on a lake somewhere and fish. I'm just saying, this is not for you. This is not for you. The students that we have now, they are, and this is what and seriously, they're in debt. In fact, in the United States, student loan debt has now surpassed credit card debt. This is a serious matter, ladies and gentlemen. And so if we're trying to prepare them for tomorrow's workplace and today's workplace so they can get a damn job, they are not going to get a job off of maybes. They're not going to get a job off of ethereal ideas. They're not going to get a job off of theory. They actually need to know. And they can only know if you know. So if you don't want to know, then you need to retire. And you can tell everybody I said that.
Oh my God. That is amazing. And I 200% agree. Absolutely. Yes. And you are just really on fire. I want to give you a hug right now.
I know. No, one day we are going to meet in person. I'm saying this with certainty. We are going to meet.
We're going to make it happen. Yes. So regarding the comments you made earlier of having engaging content, Alberto also has another amazing example. So basically they shared a video, like a live show with only 40 subscribers, and but they were sharing and engaging, and then the views increased to almost 4K. So which is truly amazing. You know, it shows again like engaging content and engaging people is really about the quality. Okay, I'm going to show in 10 minutes. So this question and one parting piece of advice, Chetachi, and how can we learn more about you? You are too amazing to be not in contact with. Okay, everyone listen to this. So please share with us.
So a final piece of advice, that
Yes.
we have to support each other in this social media space. We're who we have in this space. And the way, and this is going back to Cheval's question of growing your subscribers. You grow your subscribers when you subscribe and engage with other people. If you're only in it for yourself, it's not going to bide well after a while, because people are going to, okay, well, you never watch what I do. Why would I continue supporting you? So one of the reasons that I've been able to grow a following on Mediascope was because while I was sitting and watching what people were doing in the space, I was commenting in their live streams. I was commenting on their Twitter. I was engaging with them, so that when I started to, oh, this is the one that is always making comments. So you have to engage with other people. It cannot just be about you and your venture. We all have to support each other, because when we support each other, then other people start to see the amazing nature of the community. And I say community because it does seem to be very small, you know. So we have to support each other. And if you want to grow what you're doing, you need to be supportive of others. It cannot just be about you.
Yes, definitely giving. And how can we learn more about you? Like your handles or like your social media, your website, and everything, please share.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love Twitter. I am at Tachiada, TACHIADA on Twitter. Also on Snapchat, that's me. Also on Busker, that's me. Also on Periscope at Tachiada. Then also on Instagram, I am Dr._Tachi. So Tachi is also a Japanese name. I'm Nigerian, but it's also Japanese. So what ends up happening is that it's always taken when I go to sign up for things. So I'll combine it with my middle name, Ada. So Tachiada or Tachi, some form of that on every platform. And yeah, so.
Yeah, that's great. And if you don't mind, like typing the social media handles in the comment section after you finish your own show, that would be great. So people can add you. And yes. And thank you so much again. And everyone, Chetachi has her own show at 6 p.m. on called Mediascope on Periscope, right? Right
Periscope
after
and
this
Facebook
show.
Live.
Facebook Live. So definitely come and join. And thank you so much, Chetachi, for amazing interview, hugs. And thank you guys for being here and for engaging with us and for the amazing comments and questions. I just loved it. Thank you. And take care and enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Bye. Thank you, I.
Oh, thank you so much, Chetachi.
And thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.